There is no rush at this hour on Interstate 25 south of Denver. The highway is shut down as a semi-truck is burning brightly south of Arapahoe. The interstate is at a standstill for miles, and light rail is shut down due to the line's proximity to the fire. We have seen truck fires like this on I-25 before, especially at busy times of the day, and it is no exaggeration to say that this is going to cause a ripple effect for many miles and for many hours as people attempt to make their way home tonight. If things are at a standstill on 25, then you can guess what things are like on University and possibly on Broadway and on Monaco and so on and so forth. We will keep you updated if there's a significant change in that situation. If you guessed that what is north of town is another one of those trash or recycling fires we've seen quite often, well, you nailed it. That large black plume towering over Denver is coming from a recycling plant northeast of downtown. Evraz Recycling, just over the line into Adams County. It is right next to Riverside Cemetery, which, if you know anything about Riverside, it's that it is old, it is beautiful, and it is tinder dry since it lost its water rights years ago and dried up to a crisp. There's no indication that the cemetery is threatened by that very localized recycling trash fire, and no indication that anybody has been injured. I am guessing that you sometimes get sick of us talking politics, but you know, politics is just another word for who runs stuff around here, and that is important, and we talk about it because your vote matters. Sometimes one vote matters. Don't believe me? Well, then let's take a trip with our Marshall Zellinger to Elbert County.
Back through here.
Past the Tube TV and VCR.
We just bought the building last October, so we're still moving in.
An election in Elbert County will be decided 3 weeks after it should have been decided.
And we will rerun every single ballot that's there. We'll just do the scanning process.
The race for County Commissioner District 2 is so close. 2,994
to 2,993.
It needs a recount.
Makes you a little anxious.
Rick Pettit and Anthony Hartsook are separated by one vote.
Sitting and waiting and just seeing what the results are is kind of sitting on pins and needles, but it's exciting nonetheless.
It's just an example of why every vote counts.
We had a total of 485 Republican ballots that were turned in that did not have a mark for either commissioner candidate in the race.
No mark for Pettit, no mark for Hartsook.
You know, hopefully in the future they'll vote all the races rather than the ones that concern them.
Why people only chose to vote, or some of them only chose to vote for them and not others, I don't know.
Then there's the 64 ballots rejected and not counted at all. 9 for having no signature, 12 turned in too late, and 24 unaffiliateds, ignoring multiple reminders, turning in both Republican and Democrat ballots, negating them both.
And would you rather have a race decided by one vote or a landslide?
Well, I mean, it's a lot easier on you as an individual if you win by a landslide, not by one vote, because you sit there and wonder what's going to happen on the next step.
You know, if you lose the Super Bowl by 1 point or you lose it by 50, a loss is a loss.
What happens if the recount is different than the original count?
Well, we'll have an interesting time then. More than likely, we'll recount again.
Hopefully that doesn't happen. On election night, when the first results were published at 7:15 p.m., Pettit led by 24. That eventually shrunk to 16, then 8, and now 1. Now, part of that reason, Kyle, is because of something I didn't even know. Elbert County was waiting for more ballots to come in because they had been dropped off at other counties. So, for example, if you lived in, or if you were in Denver County and you just happened to see a ballot box, dropped it off there, it still counts. It just had to make it to Elbert County. There were 250 of those total that came in after Election Day because of that.
I didn't even know that was a thing. I had no idea that you could do that. All right, Marshall, thank you. You ever fudged a little bit on a resume? Exaggerated a touch to get a job? Maybe convinced your boss that you had a hot offer elsewhere that she might want to match? A CSU professor lost his job and is now facing criminal charges because school leaders say he tricked them into a raise. Our Katie Eastman, who got her job here on the Up and Up, explains.
Brian McNaughton. Here he is in a photo on the CSU website, wanted more money and didn't know how to get it. In a letter to university officials, he said, "My wife would complain about my salary." He also heard rumors former CSU faculty lied about outside offers to get more money. So 3 years ago, a letter showed up from Tom Hayes at the University of Minnesota offering McNaughton a job. The only problem? The real Tom Hayes said in an email, quite shocking indeed. Yes, I can confirm that I did not write nor sign an offer letter to Brian McNaughton. But before the university figured it out, it worked. They say they gave the associate professor of chemistry a $5,000 raise.
False information on applications, resumes, forged letters of recommendation. Yeah, we see it all the time, but it doesn't commonly result in criminal charges or any sort of civil claims either. Ben
Haza has seen it all as an employment attorney, but says this case is different because it's a public institution and they had the proof. McNaughton now faces a felony charge of attempting to influence a public servant.
Honestly, it's just a bad idea all around.
Now, even if an employee at a private company lied in person about getting another job offer to get more money, Haza says you could still get in trouble. An employer could file a civil claim of fraudulent misrepresentation.
And that's just any time you act in a way intentionally to present false information to another person to get them to do something you want them to do.
But it doesn't happen a lot because it's easier to just fire the person rather than sue them.
What can I do legally that will work to get more money?
Actually go out and get that other offer legitimately.
For Next, I'm Katie Eastman.
So let this serve as a warning to anybody seeking employment with a public agency, whether they're a professor or a police officer or a trash collector. Honesty is not just the best policy, it is actually the law in those situations. We should note, though, one exception would be people who are running for public office. If political candidates lie to you, there's no consequence, unless you decide to impose one on Election Day. I promised you updates on this I-25 semi-truck fire as they come in, and we are told now that that fire is under control. And if you're thinking, boy, that was fast, it's because of what was on board. It was hay. 200 bales of hay on that semi-truck. Hay, of course, super combustible, but fairly easy to extinguish. We now see traffic moving once again, but you can bet that there will be long delays from that semi-truck fire at 25 and Arapahoe. Saira Rao intended to make headlines with an upset win over Democratic Congresswoman Diana DeGette. Instead, Rao is getting national attention for saying that she has given up on white people, a comment that she says has brought forth enough death threats that she and her family are leaving Colorado. Rao told us today that she does not blame white people specifically for the failure of her progressive bid to unseat Congresswoman DeGette, though Rao did describe herself as a victim of white supremacy, which she says exists in the Republican Party and in her own Democratic Party, where she talked about liberals talking about supporting progressive people of color, but then not showing up to vote for them.
They're excited for all these other people, but when it comes down to it, in their own district, they're not going to show up.
Rao says she was targeted by harassers online after a comment about giving up on white people was picked up by the far-right site Breitbart. Rao said anyone who benefits from white supremacy and is not actively fighting it is, by her definition, a white supremacist themselves. Very few drivers in Denver are being cited for leaving dogs in hot cars. This is the second summer now since it became legal for you to smash out a car window to free a dog that could die in the heat. There were 5 people cited for neglect in those situations as of this time last year, just 6 this year. Roughly the same number of calls fielded from concerned citizens last summer and this summer. 164 this year, 173 by this time last year. It is time once again to remind one of our neighbors, that's not how you Colorado. The woman driving along 36 from Denver to Boulder must have been thinking, boy, traffic sure seems light in this lane. Ma'am, that's because you're in the bike lane. That is not where your car goes. She told police that she thought it was a frontage road. She accidentally got into the bike path off of McCaslin, then turned and went back. At one point, Boulder County deputy met her. She was ticketed for driving in an undesignated lane. They say she was sober as a gopher, so no charges there. A bikeway is owned by CDOT, so it's up to them if they need some new signage. We are getting some feedback now from an ex-viewer named Douglas. Douglas is unhappy with the NBC News Special Report last night on the President's Supreme Court nomination. Douglas writes, really, dire, the world is going to end music to accompany the story about Trump's Supreme Court nominee. How obviously partisan can you be? All right, Douglas, let's take a listen to this new special report music NBC is using to be unfair to the president.
This is an NBC News Special Report. here's Lester Holt.
Good evening. In just a few moments, President Trump will speak to the nation from the White House to announce his nominee to the U.S. Supreme Court to fill the seat.
I don't know, Doug. That kind of sounds like the same special report music that NBC has used for decades for a bunch of Democratic presidents. Let's listen back in the time machine, though, just to be sure.
This is an NBC News Special Report. Here's David Gregory.
Here now, the president from the Rose Garden. He's going to ask for congressional authority for a limited strike in Syria.
Okay, Doug, yeah, that is the exact same music that NBC used to introduce President Obama. It is not some, as you say, obviously partisan dig at the current president. To be precise, that tune is called Pulse of Events. It's part of a music suite that composer John Williams, famous for Star Wars, created for NBC way back in 1985. That entirely invented piece of outrage reflects a larger issue I see daily, a desire, a craving that people have to be unceasingly angry about something, anything. A never-ending stream of outrage, often focused on fairly inconsequential or even imaginary things. A fire fueled by social media where the moment that one trendy piece of outrage fades, well, there are a dozen more injustices du jour waiting on your plate. It's exhausting. And it's obnoxious. And I wonder if it won't eventually wear down our ability to spot actual problems that need our actual attention. And if you think I'm just talking about the other side, no, I promise you it is your side too. There's no ideology exempt from the outrage industry. Even if all you try to do is stand on the sidelines to give yourself a breather from the breathlessness, people will shout at you that you are complacent or complicit because this, whatever this is the worst thing ever. Worse than the worst thing was yesterday. Give it a rest. There are real problems in this world. You should save your energy and mine. The most Colorado thing we saw today is a mom with her world on her shoulders. I haven't been this sick of the 90s since No Scrubs was on the radio constantly. And a next viewer writes to say that we are all getting the name of a well-known street wrong. Named for a guy who agreed to be governor only if he didn't have to give up his day job. That's next. The most Colorado thing we saw today is a mother who is carrying the weight of her world, and she's loving it. Brooke tells us she gets looks every time she goes out hiking with the double pack and her boys, Asher and Declan. People love that she is sharing her passion for the Colorado outdoors at the expense of her lower back. She says the whole setup, including kids, weighs about 50 pounds, growing by the day, and is totally worth it.
The heat goes on another day with highs close to 100 degrees. The moisture coming into western Colorado is eventually going to shift north and east along the Front Range, but it'll take another day before we see highs come down. We've been running about 10 degrees above average for the last few weeks. Highs near 100 for many areas today. We'll see similar numbers tomorrow, but a flash flood watch goes out for southwestern Colorado as heavy rain is actually in the forecast for the San Juan Range, Durango, and areas up north. Not only rain, but some hail coming in with severe storms near Billings and Rapid City. The trend that'll continue tonight and again tomorrow. All of this moisture coming into the southwest will start to shift east after tomorrow, and that means cooler weather and a chance of beneficial rain, but not until Thursday and Friday. Dry for the eastern half of the state tomorrow. Best chance for rain will be west, but it all changes by the time we get to the end of the week. Tonight, fair skies and warm, low 64. Tomorrow's high back in the mid-90s. Another hot, dry, windy day. A little bit cooler Thursday and Friday with a chance of rain from storms, and a whole lot cooler by Monday and Tuesday of next week, Kyle.
Kathy, thank you. Let's play What Do You Say with the next viewer named Rick, who thinks we are all getting it wrong. Rick is convinced that the name of the boulevard in Denver along I-25 is actually pronounced Buchtel. Buchtel. Rick thinks Denver bucked up the pronunciation, with most people calling it Buchtel Boulevard. Rick says it's named after an educator from Ohio, John R. Buchtel. Rick says he went to the high school name for the guy. Rick, we checked the books. It's Buck. Buchtel Boulevard, named for a Denverite who held 2 big jobs at once. Henry Buchtel is the name behind the boulevard, a minister at Colorado Seminary, which became the University of Denver, where he became the chancellor, then accepted a last-minute nomination for governor, promising to do both jobs at once. History Colorado says opinion of the time holds that Buchtel ran the state from the university when he took office in 1906. And Governor Buchtel's largest legacy was not in his leadership of the state government. It was getting DU out from a mountain of debt. Otherwise, might not be here today. So that is the story behind Buchtel Boulevard. Send us in search of a place name pronunciation you've wondered about. You can email next@9news.com or get our attention with the hashtag #HeyNext. We tell kids you can be anything when you grow up, but can you blame them when they look at who's actually doing the job? Wondering if that's true?
Our whole goal here is to just introduce minority youth who oftentimes don't see this as a career opportunity.
And it looks like this person parked in a hurry. They crossed the line when they left it there for 2 days. Next. We can say to kids that they can be anything they want to be, but they need to see it. They need to see people like them who are ahead and blazing a trail. Our Byron Reed takes us to a summer camp getting kids to aim high.
You ready? A little support 2, 3. Can go a long way in making a positive impact in someone's life.
So, do we have another package of these?
And for 16-year-old Taylor Harkley, getting a little life advice has her thinking about the future.
Anytime there's an opportunity, I'll take it because, you know, I have a career ahead of me.
Taylor hopes to attend the Air Force Academy on her way to becoming a commercial airline pilot in an industry trying to make a change.
The diversity is really low in this field, and that's part of what inspires me to pursue this career.
Today they were able to fly the Airbus A320.
That's why she's here at the Denver Ace Academy, a week-long camp that introduces high school students to the aviation and aero industry.
We try to get them interested in STEM-related careers.
This is the first year for the Academy in Colorado, and it's a result of a partnership between the Organization of Black Aerospace Professionals and United Airlines.
Good job. They can really focus on what type of career field they want to choose within industry, whether they want to be a pilot, mechanic, air traffic controller, an engineer.
Well, the next thing we're going to do is go out. The camp is taught by industry professionals who want to make a difference.
My whole goal throughout life is to make things a little better for those who are going to follow my footsteps.
Making it easier for students like Harkley to launch the career she's been dreaming of.
Study hard, try your best, it's worth it.
2, 1. For Next, I'm Byron Reed.
We continue to be astonished by your interest in telling other Coloradans, hey, you crossed a line. Smart idea when you park in Denver to turn in your side mirrors because people drive crazy. You really got to be packed in. It astounds me that this person was parked like this at 3rd and Pearl in Denver for days and did not get clipped. It's like the first move of parallel parking without the second move, the third, the fourth, and the fifth move that I sometimes need. Phil Hunt spotted this. He said he thought the orange car was pulling out, but nope, it just sat there for days. Holy cow, enormous stack of your feedback tonight. Mark gets us started. Are you trying to say that an uninformed voter is better than no vote? Here's the tricky thing, Mark. Who is to decide which votes are uninformed? I certainly wouldn't want somebody taking away my vote because they decide that I'm not informed. David Walsh says, Kyle, when will you get your pocket square correct? I've been trying for a decade, so probably not soon. Cheryl says, dinner discussion, Kyle. What color is the jacket? Blue, black, brown? I think it's like a maroonish purple, but I'm not sure exactly. Judy says, agree 1,000% with your editorial that there is an outrage industry. And we hear tonight from Debbie, who says, Kyle, I love it when you come out of your seat. That probably was not the best move, Debbie, because I was trying to convince everybody to calm down and not be so angry every time. I'll try to stay in my seat next time.